it seems like Tim and I maybe have similar feelings on this one, but just real quick, just to know what NIST CSF is, right? It's people talk about 5 functions, NIST 5 functions. NIST CSF is the thing that makes that easy to understand. But that's where most people begin and end in NIST CSF, because CSF, although it's not very long, it's like 20 or 30 pages or something like that, goes into, okay, now that you've got these 5 functions, here's the methodology you should use as an organization to discover how you implement that for your organization, how much you implement. Do you do more security there, more security here? And people almost never get to the end of that journey because, frankly, there's a lot of decision making there, right? And you get into the hard bits. And I think from an informational perspective, it was very helpful in bringing a whole generation of people up to speed on cybersecurity. But I don't think it provides enough handholding. And we'll see what happens with NIST CSF version 2, which is going to be in draft stage soon.
Right. And I mean, that's kind of why I like, so first and foremost, what framework, right?
Yeah.
Ask any GRC, governance, risk, and compliance expert. It depends, right? Because I'm not going to apply NIST to Johnny's lug nut factory that's only making widgets unless Johnny's lug nut factory has a FAR, DFAR, some kind of clause in their contracts that says you will do A or B or C. But general businesses as a whole, I've been leaning more towards CIS because of the iterative nature of where it starts you on the first implementation group, IG1, and how it walks you through IG2 and IG3. And while it does cover a lot of the similar 5 pieces that we're seeing in CFS, it's easier to digest for a business, and it's not walking in with $1 million check to say, I got to do 1,000 things.
So 2 things, Tim or Matt. These frameworks obviously are prescribing the same recommendations generally, right? Like in terms of the tools, the people, the processes, and the procedures, right? I'm assuming that as you said, they equate, or you can cross map them, as I've seen some mapping things out there. Also, in terms of levels, you talk about CIS. There's kind of like, I want to do the small business CIS, which is IG1, and data's not important, or this
is where NIST CSF really fails, because they don't give you any guidance. They give you the same 30-page document, whether you are a gas station or like selling knitting supplies, or you're a $100 billion organization. You get the same 30-page document, and there's no like, oh, low, medium, high. That said, NIST CSF, all it is a map. It maps these basic concepts like detect anomalies, right, out to other frameworks that are much more comprehensive. So they map to CIS. We mentioned that real quick. They map to COBIT. If you're an ISACA guy, like that's just your home turf. They map to ISO 27K, which is, I used to say everywhere outside the US, that's what they cared about. However, we're seeing NIST standards used all over the planet now.
We are.
And then, of course, it maps to NIST 853, which is the other NIST standard that actually is specific and gives guidelines like low, medium, high. And so that's, I agree, if we're talking about specific recommendations, I don't even like to go down that road of NIST CSF conversations. I like to say, well, what standard might you need? And I always try to push people down the road of CIS first if they're not currently on a framework, because I think it's a great place to start. But then, do you have some pressures on you? And might another framework make sense? But just real quick on the NIST frameworks,